A musical instrument. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, née Moulton Barrett, /Brand/ March 6, 1806, June 29, 1861, was an English poet of the Victorian era, popular in Britain and the United States during her lifetime. Born in County Durham, the eldest of 11 children, Elizabeth Barrett wrote poetry from the age of 11. Her mother's collection of her poems forms one of the largest extant collections of juvenilia by any English writer. At 15 she became ill, suffering intense head and spinal pain for the rest of her life. Later in life, she also developed lung problems, possibly tuberculosis. She took laudanum for the pain from an early age, which is likely to have contributed to her frail health. Mythological background. Additionally, some background information is necessary for one to complete a full and accurate reading of a musical instrument. In the first line, the speaker references the great god Pan. He is said to be down in the reeds. This character is the main subject of Browning's poem. He is the god of the wild, flocks, and rustic music. He is often depicted with the 7-part flute which features prominently in this text. In the mythological record, it is said that Pan fell in love with and pursued a wood nymph Syrinx. She attempted to escape his advances and in order to save her from him, her sisters turned her into a reed. Pan was troubled by this as he could not figure out which reed, of which there were many, she had become. Rather than searching, he cut out 7 pieces and fashioned them into the flute that now carries his name. Analysis of a musical instrument. Stanza 1. What was he doing, the great god Pan? Down in the reeds by the river, spreading ruin and scattering ban, splashing and paddling with hoofs of a goat, and breaking the golden lilies afloat. With the dragonfly on the river. In this first stanza of a musical instrument the speaker is seen to be observing, and wondering over, the actions of the great god Pan. Pan is known as the god of rustic music, shepherds, and flocks of sheep. He is in the reeds by the river, searching for something. As the story goes, it is the reed into which Syrinx the wood nymph was transformed he is seeking. The god is described as being desperate. His searching is wild and out of control. The reeds are being ruined and he is scattering ban. This word is used to mean curses. He is outraged by the transformation of Syrinx and determined to figure out which reed she has become. The next lines give detail to the god himself. Browning conforms to the traditional image of Pan. He is usually depicted with the hoofs of a goat and the upper torso of a man. In this form, he is able to do more damage to the plant life in the water. In particular, he is breaking a part of the golden lilies and scaring off the dragonfly. Stanza 2. He tore out a reed, the great god Pan. From the deep cool bed of the river, the limpid water turbidly ran, and the broken lilies they dying lay, and the dragonfly had fled away. Ere he brought it out of the river, the speaker witnesses the great god tearing out a reed from the deep cool bed of the river. He is disrupting the peace of the ecosystem in a very violent way. Around the feet of the god, there are broken lilies, now dying. He has destroyed them in his chaotic search for the reed he wants. Despite the damage done, Pan has managed to pull out a reed from the water. He brought it from the safety of the deep cool bed, into his own ill-meaning hand. Stanza 3. High on the shore sate the great god Pan, while turbidly flowed the river, and hacked and hewed as a great god can, with his hard bleak steel at the patient reed, till there was not a sign of a leaf indeed, to prove it fresh from the river. In the third stanza of a musical instrument, the speaker describes how Pan has moved from the water to the shore. He sits there and the river flows below him. It is turbid or cloudy now. His splashing and searching have done away with its clear surface mentioned in the second stanza. The god, having retrieved that which he was so desperate for, is now hacking and hewing it with his knife. He is cutting off all the leaves from its edges until it is a simpler shape. This process removes all traces of the reed's previous location. It no longer looks like it came from the river at all, even less than it is fresh. As expected, the god has transformed through his will alone the red that he believes was once Syrinx. If he could not have her as a woman, he will have her now as a reed. Stanza 4. He cut it short, did the great god Pan. How tall it stood in the river. Then drew the pith, like the heart of a man, steadily from the outside ring, and notched the poor dry empty thing in holes. As he sates by the river, the speaker describes how Pan cuts the reed short. He trims it down to a more pleasing size. This is a fact that disturbs the speaker, who exclaims, how tall it stood in the river. It used to be grand and beautiful, now it has been taken down to a remnant of its former self. Pan's intentions for the reed are becoming clear as he draws the pith from it. This refers to its central tissue. He pulls out the center of the reed so it is hollow. This is a traumatic thing for the speaker to witness. It is described as being similar to pulling the heart of a man. The next thing Pan does is to notch holes into the poor dry empty thing. With this, he is able to make it into the first part of his flute. He does this nonchalantly while sitting by the river. Stanza 5. This is the way, laughed the great god Pan. Laughed while he sate by the river. The only way, since gods began to make sweet music, they could succeed. Then, dropping his mouth to a hole in the reed, he blew in power by the river. In the 5th stanza, the god laughs over the work he has done. He is pleased with himself and thinks that this is the only way to make sweet music. At this point, he lowers his mouth to a hole and blows into it. It has been crafted into the desired form and is now being used as he pleases. Stanza 6. Sweet, 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 O Pan. Piercing sweet by the river. Blinding sweet, O great god Pan. The sun on the hill forgot to die, and the lilies revived, and the dragonfly came back to dream on the river. In the second to last stanza of A Musical Instrument, the impact of the music is felt throughout the river and its surrounding banks. The speaker now refers to the Pan as sweet, sweet, sweet. It is impossible not to compare this description to the previous moments of destruction and defilement. Through repetition, the speaker is ironically acknowledging a general change in his perception. Now that he is able to produce something beautiful, he is regarded as being sweet. He is piercing the river with his sweetness and blinding those who hear his music with joy. Stanza 7. Yet half a beast is the great god Pan, to laugh as he sits by the river, making a poet out of a man. The true gods sigh for the cost and pain, for the reed which grows nevermore again. As a reed with the reeds in the river, in the final stanza of A Musical Instrument, the speaker returns fully to describing Pan as something closer to a beast than man. In fact, the speaker immediately notes that he is half a beast. This is evident through the way he is able to sit by the river and laugh. Other gods, those the speaker respects more and sees as being true, would sigh at the sight of pain. They are not as cruel as Pan is. The final two lines mourn for the loss of the reed. It will never grow again alongside its reeds in the river. It is important to remember that this entire piece is taken from a story in which, in an attempt to escape rape, a woman is transformed into that same reed. This fact can transform the entire poem from being a message on the care for all living things, to the brutalization and domination of women.